Hi there, it's Rita at Gold Medical Jobs, and still January 220 or 220, 2020. Yeah, that if we put a dollar sign there, that would be significant. And I think that at the beginning of the year, many of us may still be thinking about that next best job. And so I thought I should, well, let's review Gold Medical, is a meetup site for healthcare employers seeking employees and healthcare employees looking for their next employer, their next position. So I was with a great friend of mine. She is a often guest on the show on Gold Medical's site here, and that is Mary. And she was huge in recruiting. Now she's in wellness, and she will be with us again, hopefully next week. And we will pick her brain and get lots of information from her. But I thought, let's start at square one. If you're seeking employment. Number one, if you're seeking employment, come to Gold Medical. We have lots and lots of healthcare employers looking for to employ nurses and healthcare workers. And you can sign up at Gold Medical with your as little or as much information about yourself as you want to share. And I always encourage you to share as much as possible, because keywords will clue you in to a client that is seeking a nurse or another, therapist or technician that works in the healthcare field. So we focus a lot on nurses because I am a nurse, and there's a huge need for nurses nationally, internationally, every which way. Here, there, and everywhere. But the need for other healthcare professionals is very important as well. We talk about surgical technicians and physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, just all of these areas, hand specialists and doctors, of course. So I thought, let's just talk about a little bit of let me share with you some very, very basic information. Now, if you sign up with Gold Medical, just go to www.goldmedicaljobs.com, www.goldmedicaljobs.com, and follow the prompts. If you want to be there, if you want to be on the site and have employers scoping you out. It's pretty user-friendly. We are changing it up a bit, so it'll have a new face in 2020. I think it'll give others a clearer picture of who we are. We're not recruiters, we're a meetup site. If you go to the site and you have questions, please question us, call us, email us, Instagram, Twitter, get in touch with us, because it's there for you. It's there for everybody. But I thought I'd just start in the very beginning. I know, as an employer for many years of employing nurses and medical assistants and CNAs and RNs and LVNs and so forth, and did I ever place a doctor? I did not place a doctor. I certainly talked to a lot of doctors, and I sent doctors' offices and surgical centers. I sent employees there. Excuse me. Wet that whistle. So expect to be interviewed. And part of that interview is, of course, how you present yourself. But another part of that interview is what you presented, maybe in your application and maybe in your resume. And so let's stop at resume, because we hear CV a lot. Curriculum vitae. I hope I'm saying it vitae. VITAE, curriculum vitae, CVs. So what is a CV versus a resume? Are they the same? Are they similar? Are they differ? They are similar, but they both come from Latin words. Curriculum vitae is, I think it is Latin. I do believe curriculum vitae is a Latin or Italian word, and it means, oh boy, I had all this information in my head before we began, and I have to stretch myself, these senior moments. But it really means your life's work, okay? So that would be lengthy, you know, for me. I'm pretty senior here. So that's your life's work, and that can be quite a long summary of your life's work. And if I were a hospital going to bring in an ER doctor, probably be interested, you know, 13 years doing this job, 6 years at this particular job, but, you know, 13 or 20 years of experience as an emergency doctor and so forth. So curriculum vitae, or the CVs that we hear about, are these long life summaries and life's work summaries, okay? So resume, oh, not summary. See, I use that word inadvertently. Curriculum vitae is life's work. It's a long, detailed document about you, okay? And it is necessary for some jobs. And I used an ER doctor as an example. A resume, which comes from a French word, means summary. And when you say summary, you think shorter, right? So oftentimes, mostly, I have presented resumes, and oftentimes I've had to digest the information and gear it towards the job I am applying for. So for example, if you are an RN and you are applying for a job in a skilled nursing facility or a skilled rehab hospital and so forth, and you have additional nursing experiences, maybe as a supervisor or working in pediatrics, you know. So if you have a 20-year career, that may be the case. But you know, you would give that information, but briefly. So, for example, let's highlight what goes in your resume. So, how many years you've been in the workforce as a nurse? You know, not when you worked at Dairy Queen necessarily, or, you know, I don't know, 7-Eleven or something, God forbid. That's a tough job. But so how many years in the workforce, and keep it to the profession, right? So, I mean, I started working, my mother told me that summer I started working, I think I was 14, as a day camp counselor, and I had to take the bus, and I had to get something to eat and drink each day, and take the bus home. And it was 100 years ago, but it cost her more for me to have that job than I made at that job. And I think they paid me by the month or something. It was, you know, some youth organization back east. So, you know, maybe I got paid $10 a week, and it was costing her $5 a day to send me there. I don't know, $2. We none of us had a lot of money back in the day, where I come from. Anyway, so those jobs, my camp counselor job, and when I worked in the supermarket or the diner or whatever, that's not going to be on my nursing resume, my nursing summary. And I'm going to, I'm going to focus on assuming I am looking for a job. This is the job you found, okay? You came to Gold Medical, you saw that there was a wonderful skilled nursing and rehab facility looking for RNs, and you've made contact with them, and they said, please go ahead and send your resume to our HR person. And so you want to spruce up that resume, because maybe you have been working for 5 years currently somewhere else, and you have to take a look at that resume and get it in focus. So you will share very briefly how many years you've been in the nursing workforce, how many years you've been at this particular job that you're at, what is the degree after your RN? Is it an Associates of Science? Is it a BSN, ASN, BSN, MSN, whatever level? And I will say people really, really are looking for that BSN. So if you don't have it after your name, you might add it under education, that final semester in BSN program at, I don't know, San Diego State or San Francisco State University, something like that. So because that is important, and you're, for whatever reason, maybe to stop and have a baby or stop and help a sick relative, but that you are partway to your BSN, your bachelor's, and the client wants that. A lot of times in ads and employers seeking their employees, it's important for them to see that level of degree, and they'll say, if you're applying for a job in California, RN license in California necessary, BS preferred. But even if it's saying they want the BSN and you're close to it, I would stop me from applying, because it's a large picture. And so your commendations are going to be in there, your achievements are going to be in there. But briefly, you want to give the basics. So you're going to give your years in the workforce, you're going to give your year at your year or years at your current job, and you're going to give your nursing degree level. So if it's RN, ASN, or ASA, AAS is some, Associates in Applied Science, or is it ASN? Associate, whatever. Your associate level, put a little asterisk and make sure you add in either there or wherever on your resume it would look appropriate that last semester of BSN program at such and such college, university, etc. And what else? If you have any healthcare related skills, you might want to add that. So you may have worked, I don't know, medical records, or you may have worked in medical coding, or you may have worked, maybe you have worked in a rehab hospital, not with your RN, but in some other level as an assistant, you know, assistant rehab coordinator, or occupational therapy coordinator, or assistant, right? So that would be good. I would put that in. I might not detail it, but I'd want that in there, because that isn't working at Dairy Queen or 7-Eleven. That is healthcare work related. So you worked with patients at some level, you know, supervised and so forth. So, so those are things you want to include. I'm going to scan over here on my other computer. This is an LVN. Okay, so this is a sample resume that an LVN put together, and it is for a rehabilitation nurse position. And a lot of times in the skilled facilities and rehab facilities and hospitals, depends on the state if they call you a facility or a hospital. My mom lives in an assisted living facility that is probably 50% or more assisted living. So people living in apartments relatively independently. And then within that big corporate, what do they call it? They have lovely terms that they use. Senior living, the senior living facility where she is divided into 3 parts. And so she is in the major part, which is focused on senior adults that are mostly independent. They may have some needs. They might need help taking a shower. They might need help with their medicines. You know, some of them are legally blind and so forth. So, but for the most part, they gather and they socialize and they eat meals and they go to movies and a variety of things. It just makes life a little easier for seniors, and I'm talking seniors, 80s, 90s, and century-old folks that, you know, they don't have a spouse or children living nearby, and it's time for them to just have a little bit more done for them, you know, than living on their own and cleaning and cooking and doing all those things that they did for most of their lives. So they're settled down on that. And that's where my mom is at. She had a huge stroke, but she lives very independently. She had her stroke almost 9 years ago. Anyway, so half of her facility is assisted senior living or independent senior living. And then the other half is divided up into about 2/3 and 1/3. 1/3 memory care. So those individuals need a lot more supervision and a different kind of nurse, more towards the behavioral and those meds that behavioral patients need, and that constant evaluation and reevaluation. And then 2/3 of that half of the facility is skilled nursing and rehab. And a lot of patients flex through there. I could have been one of those patients last summer. I broke my foot because I was multitasking and tripped on the steps and fractured some area of my foot. It was not fun. It was not pretty. But anyway, I managed. I did have family at home, and I could get myself to the doctor and so forth, but that was nasty. But a lot of seniors do need some rehab for whatever reason, an accident or, you know, brittle bones and so forth, or some surgery and so forth. So they reserve their senior independent living space while they shift over into the skilled and rehab area. So so let's look at this LVN's info, okay? So she, and this is important, and I think it's great to detail things and maybe even talk. This one I critiquing it really quick. I see that she hasn't put in like how many patients she took care of and so forth, but I think that would be significant. So we'll look at another one in a minute. But the basic candidate info is that she's 2 years at her current job, he or she, and he has 16 years in the nursing workforce. This is an LPN, rehabilitation nurse. A related healthcare experience is that he has done medical assisting in the past, so probably worked in a clinic or a doctor's office, and has an associate's in business management and has a bachelor's in nursing education. So this person was interested in healthcare, went down a couple of roads, and has been 16 years in the workforce. I would probably want to know, is that 16 years all LVN or divided into these other categories? And so this is what they, the basic statements they made about themselves. They performed assessment, analysis, and documented and reported to the appropriate medical professional. They provided personal care, dressing wounds, tracheotomy care, and collected specimens. They administered medications and vaccines according to the physician's prescription. They educated and counseled the patient and families regarding treatments and medications. See, now in California, that wouldn't work. That would have to be the RN providing that information. Well, they probably could provide some education and counsel to the family, like if you were giving them a Tylenol at night because they don't sleep well because of the pain in their shoulders and so forth, and that's what the doctor ordered, you can remind them of that. But if they were going home with medication, they probably would want to talk to the RN about that. Establish positive relationships with patients, families, nurses, physicians, and administrators. Processed orders as written by healthcare providers. Use the Epic and Meditech charting systems. All great information and pretty basic, to the point, and the employer looking for an LVN or an LPN with similar skills would go, oh, this is a prime candidate, okay? They have that business management associate degree. They have a nursing education bachelor's degree. They've worked 2 years as an LPN for sure, 16 years in the workforce. Let's double check whether or not that is all as an LPN. Let me look at another one here, maybe for an RN. Because I think it's really good to highlight like empirical data, like how many patients I took care of. You know, here we go. Okay, here's another candidate. This is an RN and also a rehabilitation nurse. And when I'm talking about rehabilitation, I'm talking about for the most part, physical rehab, because there's behavioral and, you know, in the mental health realm of healthcare, there's rehab for that too, drug abuse and so forth, addictions. That's known as rehab as well. But I'm talking about physical rehab. Okay, so the candidate's basic info, which is really important. Your eyes go there first. That's going to be somewhere in the beginning of the resume. By the way, I didn't say this. Summaries, resumes, or summaries. So you really don't want it to be too lengthy. I always try to squeeze mine out to 1 page, but it needs to be a readable font. And maybe there's things you can eliminate, you know, that aren't really, it really should be focused on the job that you want. So there's a lot of talented people out there that have done fantastic things, but they just may not be related to the job you're applying for. So if you say this particular individual says 11 years in the workforce, I'm assuming that's 11 years as in the RN workforce. A lot could have happened in those 11 years, but she's applying for a rehabilitation RN job. So, so that's more significant, and that's what the focus should be. And then the next highlight is that 7 years at this job, and boy, that looks good to me, because she liked it enough and they liked her enough, and it was stimulating enough and so forth for 7 years. I mean, if there were a lot of problems, people don't usually last 7 years. And this RN has her Bachelor of Science. Fabulous. So those 3 things right there. 11 years as an RN, 7 years at the particular job she's working. And I'm going to assume it's a rehab job. And her level of education is Bachelor of Science, which is usually a BSN. It's BS. So we would probably want to look more closely at that at some point. But so far, I'm interested. If I'm an employer looking for an RN for my rehab hospital, I'm already interested here. So first statement is that this RN is entrusted with charge nurse responsibilities such as daily RN duties, staffing the floor, running codes, assisting other nurses by calling any abnormal lab values to the physician. Okay, that's all right. That's pretty specific. Maintain. Okay, so that responses such as daily RN duties. Yeah, that could be a little bit more specific, particularly on rehab, you know. But let's see what else follows that may add, you know, more light to that. So here are some other bullet points. Maintained awareness of comfort and safety needs for 7 to 9 patients. Now that's very specific. Monitored CVAs, MVAs, head trauma, so cardiovascular accidents, strokes, right? MVAs, oh, what is that, MVAs? Head trauma? Is that myocardial, CVAs? Cardiovascular accidents, MVAs. Huh, sorry, I didn't research this particular resume. Monitored CVAs, MVAs, head trauma, total knee and hip replacement surgery patients, as well as debilitated patients. So that's great. We know that this RN is practiced and experienced in taking care of 7 to 9 patients, practiced and experienced in staffing her unit, her floor, running codes, assisting others, calling in lab values to physicians, monitoring a variety of needs for patients from strokes and, oh, motor vehicle. MVA is a motor vehicle. Motor vehicle patients, head traumas, knees, hips, and so forth, surgery and debilitated patients. Okay, involved in ongoing teaching with the patient and their families regarding home care and additional therapy on an outpatient basis for home health, initiated and maintained IV access, Foley catheters, nasogastric tubes, administered blood, and assisted with PRN medications. Promoted to the leadership of advanced nurse clinician. So she took it the next step. She did whatever due diligence was needed, whatever education was needed to receive an advanced nurse clinician certificate. So that's great. Acted as a preceptor for new and upcoming nurses. So she did that. She did some teaching. Preceptor for new and upcoming nurses, certified nursing assistants, and all types of therapists, including education on new procedures and equipment, caring for bed sores, and keeping it. That's kind of a conglomerate of like, let me get every little thing in, and they're not as related. So as a preceptor, educating upcoming nurses, educating CNAs and so forth, that all goes together, and including education for therapists and so forth on new equipment. That bit about caring for bed sores and keeping up skills to date and so forth, that could have gone in somewhere else. You know, I might not have added that there. But at any rate, you get the idea. That's about 5 or 6 bullet points. You know how long the nurse has been working as a nurse, how long she's been at the current job, a bit about her education, a bit about her commitment, you know, by her years of work. And then I would always include on that summary references available upon request, or I might include at least 1 or 2 references from this particular job of 7 years, you know, so contact supervisor and have an email or so forth. So, I mean, I don't want to tell you how to write your resume. I just want to tell you it shouldn't be so long. Resume does mean summary, but it should be focused on the job you're seeking, meeting the job the employer is trying to fill. So this nurse, with her 11 years, 7 at her current job, may also have been the fill-in nursing administrator for 2 months. You know, maybe her supervisor went out on a surgical leave themselves, and she pinched hit in there. And she went to all the meetings, and you know, had to come up with logistics and financial information, maybe even some marketing information, because patients come and go, and you have to keep those beds full to pay everybody well. You know, you have to be efficient. So she may have some administrative background, or even, you know, some high-level administrative background, but that's not the job she's seeking. Right now, where this person, this he or she nurse RN is at, is being a good, strong supervisory nurse, because RNs in these positions usually are, oops, knocking things over, sorry, distracting myself. But those are the responsibilities. She's looking for RN rehabilitation nurse duties, which does include staffing and teaching of staff, but it's a very clinical position. It's not an administrative position. There could be a little bleep somewhere, depending, you know, you want to keep it a real concise. So those skills are great, but that's not the focus. You know, if she earned revenue for the facility, if she, you know, things like that would be for a different type of resume, a different type of job. So we could talk about that another time, because I have to admit, I'm very clinically focused, but I have done leadership, administrative, and company jobs, both for my own company and for others. And when I was seeking an important job for a big corporation as a nursing supervisor, but my knowledge of revenue and company building and team building and so forth, that was crucial, and it wasn't in my resume. But I was anxious, you know, timing was of the issue, so I just updated my resume with dates, and I didn't update the significance of what I had done. As a matter of fact, next time I'm chatting here on Gold Medical, I might dig out one of my old resumes and do a little comparison of what I looked like maybe in the late 1980s to what I look like in the early 2000, maybe 2004, and what I might look like today. So maybe that will give people a picture of how resumes vary. Most importantly, I hope you find the job you love. People do so well when they are doing something meaningful to them and that they're passionate about. So, and I think that's great. I mean, in any part of your life, you know, sometimes tennis was all that. I love tennis. It's not all that now because I've been away from it for a long time, and things happened with my arm. It kind of hurt. I'm actually thinking about there's something called pickleball. I may look into that. But things, right. So your favorite sport might have been tennis, or I don't know what it was, auto racing and so forth. And you could be really passionate about it, or thought you would be. And after a year or two, you went, you know, this isn't speaking to me anymore. I think I want to sing, or I want to ice skate, or whatever. Same thing with professions. You know, some people love being in that corporate, high-powered learning and educating and moving and traveling, and it's just the world they love. And others prefer smaller companies, you know, mom and pops, you know, maybe the same interactions, you know, a smaller group of interacting with certain clients and certain coworkers is much more comfortable for some people. They don't want it big. They want it small. They want it manageable. They want it comfortable. And so whatever speaks to you. And in this case, I just picked it out of the hat. A rehab nurse, a skilled nursing rehab nurse, such an important position, such a lot of need for these nurses and RNs and LVNs and so forth. So anyway, I'm babbling on. Happy, we are at January 22nd already. So I'll speak to you again soon. I'll bring my friend Mary back, I think on Wednesdays. I'm double checking. I'm not sure about her schedule with her new grandchild. Her new grandchild, I think, is going to spend the night with her this weekend. So I'll be talking to her over the weekend or early next week, and we'll schedule her in, and she can share so many wonderful things about what she knows about resumes, CVs, curriculum vitae, and in her experience, in her many years of recruiting, what is significant. And I just, short and sweet to me as far as resume goes, and to speak to the position, you know, where your talents meet with that. Don't make anything up, but speak to that, because we start breaking it all down. We see a lot of things, but they may not speak to the job. Okay? All right. Take care, you guys and girls. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye.